My name's Zach. This is 1 Million Cups. This is our wonderful organizing team. So what is 1 Million Cups? You're gonna see two companies get up on stage, tell you their story, tell you what they've been through, their trials, their tribulations, and then we turn it over to our expert panel, who will ask some questions, poke some holes, and then we open it up to you in the crowd, the community. And we're gonna do something a little different this week. We're at least gonna preface it a little different this week. So the main reason that these companies are coming up on stage is to get feedback, to get stuff, actionable insights that they can take back to the office and actually implement, or at least an idea that can get them running down a different path. So today, we're definitely, go about your normal, hey, great presentation, all that, but really we want to poke holes. This doesn't need to be nice. It doesn't need to be friendly. Get in there, the awkward stuff, bring it up. We really want these companies to leave feeling like they actually got something out of this. So we want to be really straightforward with them and no Kansas City nice. That said, we're going to turn it over to Matthew Marcus to introduce himself.
No Kansas City nice? I got a list of softball questions. I'm going to throw those things out there. Hello, everyone. My name is Matthew Marcus. I wear two hats in the community. One, I am a non-profiteer. I'm helping to lead the Kansas City Startup Foundation, which is helping to unify and champion Kansas City's startup and entrepreneur ecosystem, kind of a force multiplier for the collective impact of all the cool things that are happening. And then if I turn my hat around, I'm also an entrepreneur. I've got a startup called 1 Minute Candidate, which is all about helping voters like ourselves learn about the candidates in 60 seconds or less, specifically state and local. And I'm gonna try something new. I'm gonna see how can the 1 Million Cups community help a panelist. If you could go check out vote.1minutecandidate.com and just give me your opinion on this idea, because I'm still vetting it out. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Ryan Wing. I started and own The Sundry, which is a grocery/restaurant collective down at 17th and Baltimore in the Crossroads. We started almost 2 years ago, December 2014, and we presented at 1 Million Cups shortly thereafter. So.
All right, with that, we're gonna bring up my friend, the man, Casey Adams with Casey Drone Company.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Usually the applause keeps going for a while and I have to tell everyone to calm down. So I'm Casey Adams. I started the Kansas City Drone Company in 2014. A lot of people around here know me because I've got a big mouth and I fly robots over their heads. We'll go back to, this is the current state of drones and the future of KCDC, short for Kansas City Drone Company. Not to be confused with the AC/DC cover band, which is actually pretty good. So myself, I'm a UAS expert, unmanned aerial systems, 8 years DoD, building, programming, flying unmanned systems for many different things. I'm an educator. I talk a lot about this kind of stuff. I help people get their own drone companies off the ground. New to, where's my laser? New to that one, public speaking. And actually in the last 2 years, I'm an AI evangelist. I didn't really know anything about that until recently and how it applied to drones, and we'll talk about that a little later. Scott, COO, he's not here, he's working, because I keep him working all the time. He's a remote sensing expert, and that last one is most interesting because he's been lead in our product development. He's had a lot of interesting experience with Army Special Access programs. And a lot of you know Jonathan Wagner over here. We contract him to do our software development. Former DARPA developer, aviator, robotics expert. So some of the things we've been asked to speak on. This one's probably my favorite if some of you saw the pitch article. If you're interested in seeing any of these links, it's all on Crunchbase. So moving forward, company snapshot, founded in 2014. We've got a little bit of seed investment. In 2015, we won a grant. We launched an ag division. That's what Fly AgTech is. Fly AgTech is a network of UAS operators. It spans 17 states, 3 countries, and is the largest subcontractor of unmanned systems work in the United States. So some of our key relationships, we're interested to see where this one goes. I don't know if you can see my little red dot. No? We work with a lot of different construction companies, worked with Jay, Don, Clayco, McCown and Gordon, Burns and McDonald, and several others. UMKC, we like to get a lot of talent out of that little group, so I'm glad that they're here. Let's see, IP. These are different things that we're developing for the future, and you can read through them. I'm not going to go into them because some of it's super secret sauce. So, current state of drones. Industries are interesting. The film industry still takes up a decent chunk of the state of drones, right? So everybody's using them for marketing. You know, everybody from internet companies to camera companies are all getting in that sweet, sweet drone action. We've got 14% is mapping and surveying, 22% is precision agriculture. A small chunk of it is public safety, which I expect to increase as soon as the FAA allows beyond line of sight operations. We do most of it. Even the other part. So if you remember last year at the Smart City Tech Summit, we created a drone that automatically responded to a local emergency. In that event, it was an active shooter, and the drone automatically launched and automatically identified who the active shooter was, and then followed them around for a short period, streaming all that information straight to the police for their common operating picture is what they call it. So yeah, we even play in the other space. Manufacturing is interesting. We have been avoiding manufacturing entirely because DJI, which makes this giant octocopter over here, we estimate, this is just me estimating, they've probably got about 70% of the market right now. I know that it says right here 24%, but I don't trust that number. It's the most recent one that I could find, but everywhere you go, that little white quadcopter that you see all over the news, that's a DJI product. They sell them they start at like $400 you can buy on Amazon. You can buy them everywhere. And they've flooded the world with, even ISIS is out there flying little DJI quadcopters. So, I mean, everybody's got one. So I don't think that 24% is accurate. I think it's a lot higher than that. But we're actually going to dive into that pool as well. Commercial drone operators. Most commercial drone operators are now legal because of the new Part 107 that was just put through. So that's exciting. For a long time, a lot of operators have been sort of fumbling around in the dark, flying illegally, trying to avoid the FAA and getting nasty grams from them. So now there's a clear path forward for micro UAVs in the United States. You can go out and get a certification for less than $300. It does take quite a bit of study, so we help people get their certification as well. So a quick question. Who would like to see drone delivery services in the Midwest? Raise your hand. Yes, that's a good chunk. I just threw this out there last week. Most people said yes, and yeah, I made the answers a little goofy because that's what I do on social media. 8% were scared of flying robots. 58% said that they would be awesome. 26% says it depends on the price. But I think that's an interesting and growing market because of all the little stuff that you go buy where you have to get in a car, especially in Kansas City, and drive off someplace for 10 minutes, and you ended up getting something, you know, whatever, gum, beer, cigarettes, whatever it is. Maybe I should stay away from the ATF descriptions, but I'm trying to think of, you know, something small that's valuable you end up going, spending 30 minutes to go get. It'd be nice if it kind of showed up at your doorstep. So I'm just curious, but the future of what we're actually going to do is not necessarily drone delivery. I think Amazon's going to have a pretty good handle on that, and the Bezos group is not somebody I want to mess with right now. The future of KCDC is in regional mapping and analytics. We do it right now on a micro scale as the FAA permits. When the FAA allows for it, we'll be flying the device to your right. It's a concept image of something I actually showed at Tech Week. It's a solar-assisted aircraft that is multifunctioning. So it does mapping, it does live imagery relay, it can even do telecommunications relays. So there's a lot of interesting market opportunities for both regional mapping and producing an inexpensive aircraft that can do just that. Maintenance is something that we were going to spin up and talk about here, but we actually started doing it about 2 months ago, and it currently takes up about 15% of our revenue, or creates 15% of our revenue, because people are buying those DJI quadcopters everywhere, and they're just smashing them into everything. So that's good for me, right? I can go fix them, right? So people get on our website, they can see we do drone maintenance. You click that little go button, and it'll take you to a Google form. You fill out all the information. You can mail in the drone. You don't even have to show up and listen to me drone on about drones. Sales. We're currently finalizing a distribution partner that's going to allow us to do sales for the top 4 main manufacturers of drones, including DJI equipment, because that stuff is just flying off the shelf. So these 4 sections are the future of KC Drone Co., and maintenance is actually kind of killing it right now, so that's what we're up to. Let's see, needs. I'm open to speaking to investors. That's not what this is about, but specific industry partners also have to be defined. We can talk about that later or now, but those are our needs. We need a way to be able to scale a little bit larger and faster in the right way, which is going to take probably some investment money. And we need specific industry partners, preferably in the insurance world. So that is the Kansas City Drone Company. We're an aerial intelligence company, which really plays off of the mapping portion of what we do. And we end up doing a lot of other stuff too. So we leave it now open to questions.
Awesome. All right. Well, we're going to start out with a round of applause. And then we'll open it up to our expert panel.
Test. All right. Good to see you, Casey.
As it's good to see you.
Glad to see the company is progressing.
It is, yeah. I didn't have a choice. I don't want to get a job.
There you go.
I don't want to get a job.
I know that feeling.
Yeah.
So a couple of questions, actually. Maybe you could quickly tell us this. We were talking about it previously, but the latest on the FAA regulations, because I know the airspace above us has largely been regulated for a long time, 400 feet and above, but now we're talking about a whole new layer. What's the status?
Yeah, so it's still pretty much cut off at 400 feet. There are ways to get legal exemptions to just about every one of these rules, but the chances of getting one of those are almost nothing. So to answer your question more concisely, there's a section of the FAA guidelines that came out called Part 107, and that is how you get what's called a remote pilot certificate. So you can get a remote pilot certificate, which didn't exist prior to that. You had to be, a manned aviator. You had to have at least a sports certificate, light sports certificate before, so that you could qualify for a 333. Well, the 333, if you got one, great. You don't need it anymore. Now the thing that people are after is this Part 107 certification. So it's a real certification. You can get, your little ID and everything written out. You get a certification, and anytime you go fly, part of passing that certification process was knowing how to fly, who to notify, and how to fly, wherever it is you're doing. So it's different flying in urban environments versus flying in rural environments. And so the rules change based off of risk that the Federal Aviation Administration deems it, high risk or not. So to answer your question, yes, for like less than $300, you can go get a certification to actually fly drones commercially yourself. So that's good news.
My question kind of centers around, I'm interested in your poll where you only found 8% of people that are kind of afraid of drones.
Yeah.
I could see, even if it's just mapping drones flying over urban areas, how do you think you and others sort of deal with those that will be loud about drones flying over their house and being afraid of that?
So if we do large area urban mapping, it's from a plane. So we use satellites, planes, and drones. Large area urban mapping has been done for a long time. There are new advances in software and hardware as far as sensors are concerned that sort of open up new market opportunities, and that's important. Doing it with drones is ideal for cost efficiency, but right now it's not completely legal to do that. And like if I want to do all of Kansas City, I got to hop in a plane and do it. So if people are concerned about privacy and safety, frankly, they should be. We don't fly anywhere where we're not invited. So if somebody wants us, somebody was going through a legal issue, this is a good example. Someone's going through a legal issue, they want me to fly over somebody else's house so that I can videotape there was like like an illegal dirt bike ring or something over there. And so they wanted to be able to prove that it's too close to their ranch and it's too loud and it's dangerous and all this stuff. I'm not going to do that. It's not, you know, if they called me up to videotape them riding dirt bikes and like make a marketing video or something, yes, I would do that because I'm flying over the land of the guy who owns it, right? And he called me. So we stay out of those sticky situations because that's usually not where our customers are. Most of our customers are construction companies, and they say, come to our, you know, usually a secure site, and then do mapping, and we want you to come back every week for logistics analysis. So there's a whole product that we build out for that, and that's what most of our customer base is for. So as far as privacy is concerned, we don't do any wide area surveillance. That stuff is best done with planes anyway. So anyway, hope that answers your question.
So I'm curious to know where Casey envisioned, this is a fast-moving industry. I think things are changing almost monthly, if not quicker. So I'm curious to know what Casey envisions the Casey Drone Company being in, let's say, 2 years. And the reason I ask that is because I went on your website last night. I haven't really caught up with you in a while, and I know you started with aerial mapping and that type of focus. But now I'm seeing maintenance, I'm seeing manufacturing, sales, and the new FlyAg Tech. So I feel like you've got a lot of irons in the fire, and I'm wondering, is that by design to see where the biggest need is, or are you trying to do it all?
A lot of it is by design. Most of it is from customer requests. So we recently got into the film industry. So this thing flies a Red Epic. It's a very expensive camera, and all in all, with the camera and the gear put on there, it's like a $30,000 rig, right? We never intended to do that. But we get calls all the time for marketing and maintenance and stuff like that. So I know I can do all that stuff. It's not my bread and butter as a defense intelligence person, but I can't ignore where the market is going to pay me today, right? So there's a practicality behind some of that stuff. FlyAg Tech was done on purpose. We wanted something that was branded differently from the Kansas City Drone Company, because I couldn't go. I've been called a lot of interesting things, but the most interesting thing I've been called is a Monsanto spy. So I was out hitting the dirt roads talking to farmers about how UAVs can be used for large area mapping and crop analysis and yield projections and things like that. And going under the Kansas City Drone Company, they said, well, this isn't Kansas City, what are you doing here? And you know, then they start thinking about, you know, me working for somebody else and then selling their data even though they own all of their data. So we decided to brand differently and call it the FlyAg Tech, powered by Casey Drone Co. So it's actually a network of operators. So we've got over 30 different operators now that we can rely on that are good imagery collectors. And then so we collect all their imagery, we do all the analysis, we work with agronomists, and then we give them actionable, action items. So actionable intelligence is what we call it in the military. So I've got to demilitarize my speak, but it's the same concept, right? So you go out, you gather information, you process the information, and then you figure out how you can create an ROI on their current operations. It's the same process for construction, it's the same process for agriculture. You just have to know those industries and partner with experts in those industries. So some of it's by design, some of it's by just customer demand.
Thanks, Casey. I think we're going to go ahead and open it up to the audience. So if you have a question, please throw up your hand. And we're going to start with Mr.
Where's my
Joe.
Twitter heckler from yesterday? There he is. Now's your chance. Oh, sorry, sir. I didn't mean to.
Interesting presentation. It seems like you are in just about every drone facet that you can get into, except maybe the whole business of controlling drones using automation. So is that because you're being opportunistic right now? And if that's the case, where do you hope to settle? I'm particularly interested in your ag tech, because you mentioned that you get 50% of your revenue from doing the service, so ag tech must take significantly less than that. I'm curious how your business model on that part works.
Yeah, I started the whole company based off of agriculture, and that's foreign affairs work that I had done downrange. So we would actually scan Afghan fields looking for anomalies, mostly poppies, right? So we go find poppies in a wheat field after we taught people how to create wheat and feed families and things like that. Then you'd see poppies start popping up. And so then you'd have to geolocate them and then go tell the Marine Corps or somebody who likes to burn stuff, go destroy this area, right? Without destroying everything else around it. So it's the inverse sort of precision agriculture today in the United States and around the world. So originally we had started the whole company based off of agriculture. I knew exactly what I was doing. I knew what remote sensing could do for crop health assessments and how to gauge how much yield you're going to get towards the end of the year, earlier on in the season. But farmers are not that quick to adopt new people that they don't know and technology that they don't quite understand yet. So, I parade these things around like they're eye-catching, right? People want to know what they are, but I don't care what it is that we use to get the data. We just need the information. So that's why I say we're an intelligence company, because if I can't fly this on your farm and you hired me to do it, I'll figure out a way to get the exact same data. I'll just have to create it somehow. So drones are just cheaper and easier. So our whole business model is based off of agriculture intelligence. And that has clearly changed over the past few years due to market demand. And a lot of times, stepping away from spending my time talking to random farmers versus going to co-ops, versus going to seed dealers and people who have the money and the reach to get me on a lot of farms versus just one farm at a time. So that's why we talk to John Deere. We do all their remote sensing experimentation. So we work with their development crew to figure out what the real value is for John Deere, and I'm going to let them drive the demand within John Deere and their customer base for next season. So I don't have to, because it's exhausting.
Question in the center.
Okay, small construction company right next door to where I live just built an apartment complex.
Okay.
Once a month, they were flying a drone up and posting the videos online to show the progress.
Okay.
They bought their own drone. Money-wise, how are you making money, and how are you going to protect against somebody who can go buy one of these for $400 at Sam's Club, go buy the $300 license, and do it themselves?
Yeah, we make about $3 to $5 grand every time we go to a construction site, because we do something different. We do intelligence collecting, and we reverse engineer budgets and show them where waste and fraud and things like that may be. So our value add is far different than photos and videos. We can do photos and videos, sure, but I can't raise a family on it. I can't grow a company on it because, like you said, everybody has a quadcopter. And with the Part 107 coming out, now the market is saturated with new drone dudes. And that's all good. That's actually more people that I can add to my network of operators so that I don't have to travel to Oklahoma City. But our product is very different. If you go online, you go under industries and construction, and I talk about what we're calling worksite intelligence. And we're detecting ultimately where people are losing money in their logistics systems. And I mean, construction companies are notorious for being archaic with logistics. They have a million different products and services that are subcontracted to them, and none of their systems talk. So you end up getting weird situations where you'll have 3 or 4 bulldozers at a large site that haven't been used in 2 or 3 weeks because nobody knows they're even there. So if it were my company, I would want to know where every bit of everything is so that we can reduce the amount of waste. I mean, it costs money to have that thing sitting out there. Every time it's not moving dirt, it costs you money. So that's what we do for large construction companies. Small construction companies are medium size. We can go get them photos, and that proves some value for stakeholders in the company, but that's not exactly what our bread and butter is for construction.
Question for you on the far right over here.
Yeah.
So I clearly fall in the 8%. I'm an old guy, and I'm not sure that I want a drone dropping off my packages, but I like the idea of what you're doing as far as the ag industry and the construction industry. When you do the intelligence, I guess I'm in that space as well. What type of data, and you don't have to go into technical speak, but what type of data systems are you using to determine and come up with this intelligence?
Some of it is tips and tricks that we've learned from our experience. My COO, Scott, had spent 22 years in the Army, and he's done a lot of this processing and information gathering. So being able to do simple things like asset tracking, everybody's heard of, if you're in the drone world anyway, everybody's heard of like 3D calculations for mounds of dirt and things like that. That's all well and good. Now you have some data points, like you have X amount of earth movers, you have X amount of dirt to be moved. How much is that going to cost to move that large amount of dirt? You can start reverse engineering their budgets so that they don't just eyeball it. Because right now, most companies will go out there and they see a large field and they go, I'm going to build a shopping mall here. And they don't know how many trees are there. They don't know how long it's going to take to get it done. They estimate it, usually put in 2 or 3 weeks of estimations too much. And they're going to end up getting paid for it until it rains. And then all of a sudden, they're 2 or 3 weeks behind. So knowing exactly how much effort and money and resources and human resources that you have to put into a project, it can change your bottom line pretty fast. So those are the different things that we do. Some of our software is proprietary. Some of it's from training through the military. It can be a labor-intensive process at the beginning because every construction company is very different. So I can't go to McCown & Gordon with the algos and software written for Jay Dunn because it doesn't integrate with their software. So they can't see, how long they need to schedule an earth mover or how much rebar they have to pull out to a site or how much is already out there because their system isn't ready for it. So it can be a little intensive when we're working on different software solutions to sort of build that out and fix that issue.
And Ryan's got one more quick question for you.
As you continue to grow and expand, just given the name KC Drone Co., is the hope to stay regional and just sort of have a hold on this market, or is the hope to grow larger than that? How do you anticipate?
So we're kind of already out in other regions, but it's usually under someone else's flag. So we subcontract because we get subcontracted too because we have the resources. So if there's companies out there like Measure and Lyft, and they'd be competitors of ours if they weren't so much partners of ours as well. So whenever they need something done in the Midwest, they come to us and we get it done. So I don't really know. I don't have a good answer for that, is ultimately, maybe you guys might be able to help me out, but people say, why do you pigeonhole yourself to just the KC area? And I just don't, we're not only there. We're in 2 other countries and 17 other states. So, I don't know if you've ever been to Seattle or not, but I saw KC Masterpiece on the shelf out there. So I didn't even know before I moved to Kansas City, I'm from St. Louis, I didn't even know that KC Masterpiece meant Kansas City. So you just see it and you go, okay, well that's the sauce that I like, and you just dump it all over your ribs and eat it. But keeping it KC Drone Co. or KC Drone Company I don't think it really pigeonholes me because people don't care. They just want the imagery. They just want their marketing products. If I say we're the Kansas City Drone Company, then people get a little bit curious. So I don't know. Maybe you can shed some light on that.
So I know you already touched on this today, but our final question for you is, what can we as a community do to help you?
Yeah, so we've got some interesting possibilities for the insurance world. So things like disaster response and automating hail damage and wind damage and things like that through change detection software is where we want to go. It's great to do analytics and to build out sort of logistics solutions for construction companies, but it'd be great to do it for a whole city or a whole region. If I were to make one map of Kansas City to Lawrence, now I've got over 150 customers already. Why would I want to waste my time to walk out to one site, buzz around, and that's one customer, when I can get 150 together at a time? And a lot of those are insurance companies. So we are more than interested in speaking with forward-thinking insurance companies who want to be able to expedite claims. Because there are insurance companies looking into doing that, but they're looking at it in the wrong way. They're going to send out claims adjusters to each and every little house, which still costs the same amount of money. So why would you do that whenever you could map a whole region and then auto-detect changes and damage, then auto-generate budgets, and then auto-generate customer calls and things like that. So that's a different world. That's taking the imagery at a large scale and finding many different customers to provide value faster. So that's kind of the future of what we're doing here. And I'll do that with planes or drones. It doesn't really matter. It depends on what the FAA wants. But that's where we're going. That's been the whole point since I started the company. So agriculture and insurance will be done in the same flight.
Thank you so much for your presentation today. Let's give him another round of applause.
Thank you. Gary, can I get your help moving this stuff? Thanks. I could just put it on the launcher and shoot it through the glass if you want me to.
Okay, so we'll get started with announcements. First off, you mean to go through the other ones first? Okay, so announcement sheets are in the back. A few quick ones. Last week we had the pipeline folks here. Actually, the applications are due at midnight tonight. So if you're interested in applying for pipeline, you need to do it today. There's more information also on the sheet, as well as the last announcement, AR Tech Barbecue. We're inviting you all to join us at the American Royal for the barbecue. So there's instructions on how to register. They're asking that you register by this Friday, the 21st, to reserve your place. So there is a cost to get into the American Royal, but to come to the tent for the free barbecue and drinks, that is all free. So if you have any questions, just let us know. Also, 1 Million Cups is hosting our 1 in a Million competition. They have announced the top 15 semifinalists, and we are now going to vote for the top 5. So, cast your vote. It's online. Kyle will tweet it out. And I think there's still 2 companies from the Kansas City area, one from Kansas City and one from Lawrence. So please go cast your votes to support our community. You ready?
So ready.
Good.
All right, guys, this weekend there's a really cool event happening right here in Kansas City. It's happening in 3 cities. Kansas City got picked for it. It's called Play for Tomorrow. It's a sports and social innovation hackathon. So Friday night, there's a really cool reception. Saturday, there's actually a working event. And then Sunday, they pick a winner who will actually receive funding for their idea. There's a sign-up sheet in the back with a lot of information, but if you go to play4tomorrow.com, all the information's there. It's also on the announcement sheet. Check it out. It's going to be a really cool event. The Chiefs and the Royals are going to be there. Should be a really interesting event.
Thanks, Luke. So without further ado, I would like to welcome John with Yummylicious Cookies.
Thank you. Thank you, Courtney. Appreciate it. That's a tough act to follow. That is on the cutting edge of technology and everything, and we're going to go back several thousand years to baking. So, how many of you were able to enjoy some of our samples before? Raise your hand high. I'm disappointed in the rest of you because anyway, maybe I'll entice you after I get done speaking to be able to try some of those, but I encourage you to do that. So, Yummylicious Cookies. How did we get here, and how did this happen? We have a few taglines. One is we're bakers, not chemical engineers. That's not technically true because I'm a mechanical engineer. I have a finance MBA, so I'm very analytical. But what we meant by that was we do not use a lot of highly processed ingredients. Our food supply, more and more things are being used to make more food, to make it last longer, and we wanted to get away from that. And so my wife started on this journey in 1994, 95, almost 20 years ago. She started messing around with whole grain recipes. And the internet was around, but it looked absolutely nothing like it did today. And so you couldn't Google a whole grain recipe because Google didn't exist. So she tried and travailed, and we tried different recipes. And I survived, so you can thank me after eating those cookies for all of the bad batches that we had in our house. It literally took her 8 to 10 years to get that dialed in. And from there, we really weren't going to do much with it. But the founding philosophy for us when we were doing this was natural. And I was starting to run some half marathons, and my wife wanted to have a more wholesome treat for herself and our son. and that's where we started. Unfortunately, between then and now, the word natural has been really kind of bastardized and hijacked. I remember 5 or 6 years ago, Lay's came out with all natural ingredients on their potato chips. And while that could be true, I would definitely disagree with that assertion. And so what we do is we want to carefully define what natural is. And in this case, it's minimally processed ingredients. And the FDA is not going to come out and make a claim on that. But for us, when we say minimally processed ingredients, it's for our cookies. I'm not selling broccoli. If you're thinking of this as a health food, then you'll probably let me have it in Q&A, and I'm sure there'll be some questions about that. But we're trying to provide another option for something that is fairly decadent that people are starting to move away from, but we want to be able to offer a product that people can enjoy. So the other advent that has happened in the last 4 or 5 years is the cost of organic ingredients has dropped significantly. When we first started, it was just stone ground whole wheat flour, just the sugars that we could use off the shelf. But since then, organic ingredients have drastically decreased. Why that's important for us is there's no pesticides, there's no herbicides. I appreciate Casey's allusion to Monsanto, but there's some studies that are coming out that talk about the residue from the Roundup that's sprayed on our wheat crops that may be causing some of our food issues. That's up for debate. I have some friends that work at Monsanto, and we have lots of vigorous discussions. But our purpose in this is we don't want to have that. There's enough stuff in our food already, and we want to move away from that. And we have a phrase, fewest steps from field to food. So visually, if you want to think about how things happen, I grew up on a farm in North Dakota, and my dad planted the grain in the spring. He harvested it. He did it the old-fashioned way. He cut it and laid it down in windrows, and it dried. And then you take it to the mill, and then you bag it and you bake it. That's what we want to have, the fewest steps. We don't want to have chemicals. We don't want to have it washed with hexane. We don't want to have things added to it to make it look a different color. We want it to be as it is. And because of that, a lot of the micronutrients that are in our grains are still in our products that you're able to eat. So what's inside? You can look at some of our collateral, but essentially in our products we have whole wheat flour, ground flaxseed, oat bran, and oatmeal. That's all organic. I do have a line of gluten-free products just because the market has demanded it and asked for it. Again, we use only organic grains in those products as well. I use organic sweeteners. Sugar is in the crosshairs now of most people's diet. And when we talk to people about this, I use the phrase everything in moderation. We've had sugar forever, and we've used it in lots of different varieties. But we choose to use source wholesome sweeteners, and they look for fair trade, sustainably grown organic sources. So our dark brown sugar, and I have a sample, I might have left it on the table, it's very thick, it's very dense. It has all the molasses in it. Your dark brown sugar in the store is actually white sugar with molasses added back to it. Doesn't make a lot of sense on why you do that. These ingredients are not cheap, but they have come down enough where we can put them and have an affordable product for our customers. Use butter and eggs, going back to the basics. I've had lots of arguments with people at the farmers markets about butter and eggs and the health of them, and I just go back in time where butter used to be bad, and guess what they gave us? Margarine. Good, thank you. Thank you for the government. Anyway, I'll leave the political asides out of there. Eggs as well. Chicken lays the eggs, we crack it, and then we use it. So that fits our minimally processed philosophy. So what's not inside? We don't use white flour and we don't use white sugar. Some people are amazed, some people who know how to bake, and they ask us, well, how much do we use? And I said none. The reason for that is it is highly refined, and when your body metabolizes it, you get the proverbial sugar rush. So if you've had one of those Lofthouse cookies from Sam's, you eat a couple of those, and all of a sudden, you're like, I got to take a nap 30 minutes later. Or you get another cookie. You don't get that with the whole grains that we use. We don't have preservatives. Our cookies will go bad, they will get hard, they will grow mold. I think food should go bad. The other thing about preservatives is when your body digests it, it's actually your body is fighting against whatever is in there, so it doesn't take in the nutrients that's already in that product. Oils and high fructose corn syrup. So if you look at the plethora of oils, vegetable oils are usually processed with hexane. There are some that are not. And then there are some companies that are moving it to that. But I look at butter and where that comes from and the process to get that versus oils, as a much simpler, more direct route. So our timeline. 2008, I left corporate America. I had spent 20 years. I worked for Caterpillar. I worked for Cummins. There we go. And I took a package from them. And I really didn't have a lot on my radar, and there was some things I got to do consulting-wise, but we got started at Dean & DeLuca in 2008. Full disclosure, the manager was a good friend of ours, was over at our house eating the product, and he said, "Can I have the recipe?" I said, "Josh, there's no way. My wife worked a decade to get this." And he said, "Well, can I have cookies for the store?" His only purpose was to get them in for his customers. And so we got in there. I rented a kitchen from somebody else at our church, and we used that for a year. A year later, I put a commercial kitchen in my house in Olathe, 250 square feet, fully certified, all the stainless steel stuff. And from there, for 3 years, we just continued to expand. It was mostly direct. We would do farmers markets, started at the River Market. We're still there. Started at Overland Park Market. We had Parisi, as they started their cafes. We had all of their cookies, scones, and muffins. And so, but it was still a part-time job for me. I always had another full-time gig. Then 2014, our life took a turn. My wife and I loaded up our 4-year-old and 1-year-old daughters, and we went to Mozambique for the summer. We went to a mission training school. So 6 weeks, no running water. We knew we were supposed to go there. But at the end of that summer and a month in South Africa, we knew we were supposed to be doing cookies, because there's a bigger purpose for what we're going to do, and we can probably cover that in the Q&A. So I came back in 2015, found a shared space, limitations with that, learned some things, got our own space this year. Again, there's some limitations with that, have learned a few things, but we're continuing to grow. Again, we're mostly direct, but we're trying to expand our wholesale business. And Ryan and I have talked before, and we've missed, so we will follow up after this meeting.
With that, we're going to have to open it up
Product,
for the expert panel.
There's our products that we have, and questions to the experts.
Tell me how you picked your name.
So coming from corporate America and having the right way to do things, initially it was the Smart Cookie Company. I was like, oh, that's genius. I thought of it. I'm the engineer, remember, not the marketing guy. And so I filed for some trademark work, and I got did it myself, and I got all these cease and desist letters, and it's like, I can't go there. So some of the people that I knew that were in the entrepreneurial world said, come up with something fanciful. So there's a good friend of mine. He's done consulting work. We're going to sit down one morning, whiteboard everything. He's got the process. We're going to come up. We're going to get the name. And I woke up, and my wife said, Yummylicious Cookies, or Fantabulous Cookies. That was the other one. I was like, well, that's pretty good. And so I went there, sat down. We were ready to do the work, and we talked about it for about 30 minutes, and we were done. And so it was a word that has been used out there, but in terms of other products, there wasn't anything out there, 6 years ago, and there's still really nothing out there like that today.
Just one more for me. Can you tell me a little bit about what is your growth plan, as far as geographically, but also, you said you're moving into wholesale. Where would you like to be in a couple years?
Where I would like to be, and this goes back, I alluded to this earlier about there's really a bigger purpose for this business. Having traveled the world, done mission work in virtually all the continents, and seen poverty and lack of opportunities, one of the things that, especially in the U.S., that I want to do is I want to provide jobs, and I want to provide. Anybody can bake a cookie; they can be trained to do it, but I want to pay them well. The Alvarado Street Bakery in San Francisco, California, pays their average worker $60,000 to $70,000 a year to bake bread. And I thought there was something in my mind that said, well, why can't we, if we have a premium product, provide jobs for people and help them get off of what a financial prison that they're in because they can't get a job and they lose their benefits. So that's what I'd like to do, is have a place that makes cookies. They can be baked, but that generally doesn't serve a wider audience. I do have dry mixes, and I have a couple here for examples. We have ready-to-bake product that I alluded to earlier that basically is a frozen puck, and you put it in your oven. We have a couple coffee shops that use that, but we can expand that. I've talked to Costco. They're very interested, but we need to scale in order to grow. So yes, I want to be local, but you'll see in my ask, my website needs to be revamped because I can reach nationally with the right resources on the web, and we've shipped these things with success.
So, with Casey Drone Company as the previous presenter, I actually half expected us to come to 1 Million Cups today and see drones being delivering cookies. We just reach out and a cookie truck fall from the sky. No, so I researched your website last night, kind of looked into your company. It doesn't get any simpler than this. I mean, you've boiled it down to the bare bones of starting a company, right? Very simple product, very straightforward, great branding, great website presence, and you've just boiled it down to, hey, we deliver the best cookie that you can really get. So I really like that about what you guys have put together. I was surprised to see that you'd been around for so long, only because I hadn't really heard about you.
Yeah.
And so I am curious to know, the cost for the cookies. You have a nice, easy website store. Costs $3.50 for the 6-pack per cookie, that is, all the way down to $2 a set. So it is a premium product. Have you found cost to be difficult or prohibitive for people to say, it's kind of up there?
It is, and what we try and do, we balance, well, could they be smaller? Price point. We used to sell for $2.50. That's before we used the organic grains. And if I look back at sales, my sales were more back then, and I think it's because somebody will give you a $5 bill and take 2 cookies, and they will, so just that little piece of it. But the one thing that we have found, so when we sell those at markets and direct, they're $3. Some of the retailers, Terra Market sells for us, they're probably at $3.25 for our products. But like our dry mixes, those are 10, and people are readily available for that.
Is that a dozen? You make a dozen out of that?
You probably get 6 to 8 cookies that are, my 3.5 ounce size. And so for us, there's some experimentation. There's probably a right size on doing that. But when you're doing, I've got an employee and we're busy getting things done, there's a whole list of things as an entrepreneur that just kind of sits there and reminds you every time you wake up and go to bed, what you need to do. But there are definitely people that are just, they look at this and they say $3, and they'll go to the, the lady that bakes a stack of cookies for $4 from white flour and white sugar, which, unfortunately, that's when it comes to economics, you have to make choices.
One more question from me. So you've been around a while. You're clearly sustainable. You're making money, I presume. Can you talk a little bit about revenue increase over the years and how you're being sustainable? And also, to tack onto that, I love that you give 10% back of your revenue, not just your profit, to supporting causes. Can you talk about some of the causes? I think it probably came from your trip to Africa and your mission work.
Yeah. So if you looked at that picture on our website, there's actually a picture of my daughter's in there, and so there's this home, children's home, and they have brought in 32 kids from the hospital. What happens in South Africa? Kids are born and they're abandoned, and so they literally have nowhere to go, and they get like a call or 2 a week, and they range from 18 down to 8. So we spent a month there with them, and we really loved what they do and how they do it, and they get their kids engaged, and they train them and they teach them, and so we've given money to them as well. So most of the things that I contribute to are ventures that I have already done. There's a place in Honduras that is starting a coffee business, and so we've invested with them. But I think it's that philosophy, if I don't give back in a meaningful way, then really, I left corporate America because I could have, retired. I could have had a big old bank account, but it's not fulfilling. So we're trying to plow in, which goes back into the jobs. Single mothers would be my target audience. I want to help them and train them because this is not, you don't need a lot of education to do this. But once I help them have a steady income, then I can help them discover who they are and what they want to be. They can bake cookies for me for the rest of their life. But if they want to do something else, I want to help them do that.
Great job. We're going to go ahead and open it up to the audience now. We're going to kick it off in the front here.
Hi, interested to try your cookies. Sorry I missed them before we started. I think you kind of fell into a realm a lot of technical founders do, where you talked about your technology for the first 5 minutes. And Scott could have done that with the drone, talked about the circuit boards and why they chose this GPS chip. So I think next time, get through that, talk about what you're doing. I still don't quite get what your strategy is. And so my question with that is, what partners are you looking for? And if you weren't from Kansas City, where's the best place, where's your best market at?
Good question. So where we want to go, and that will be in my ask, we're looking to expand our wholesale distribution. We've done a couple tests with people in terms of our baked products. Again, there's no preservatives, so I have limited shelf life. We tried this probably 6 years ago with Dean and DeLuca and McGonagall's, and it just doesn't last. They weren't used to handling a fresh product. They didn't have a place for it. So people would pay $3 for a cookie, and it's like, kunk, kunk. Nobody wants to microwave that. So we're finding people. Terra Market is probably our flagship, but places that the customers coming in, they want to find a great grab-and-go item, and so that's on the baked product. The mixes, they can go anywhere. They can go into little shops that sell groceries in Kansas City, for example. Places where people want different. They want healthier. They want better ingredients, and so we want to expand that as well. The ready-to-bake product is something we're going to trial this year at a couple pop-up shops that we're at. But we've had a lot of people at the markets come up and say, "Oh, I don't want to make a mess. I know you've made this easy, a stick of butter and an egg, but I still got to make a mess." And so we've sold some pucks to people, and they're like, "That's what I want. I'm busy. I've got a family, and I just need to put these in, and I'm going to give them to my kids for breakfast." And so they want to have something better than a granola bar filled with canola oil and lots of other things that I would suggest there's a better option for you. So we want to grow that. And in terms of the market, I live in Kansas City. So I haven't looked beyond that, but we have we've sold, across the country. So people that I have met who like food, California would be a great place. Regulatory, it scares me to death on the things that you have to deal with out there. So we want to start here and we want to build here. Ultimately, there's a franchise component to this that you can have a coffee shop or a bakery, and you can replicate that. And so you can create these products. You can have an option where people can come in and get those, and then you can just start multiplying that once you have the systems and the processes in place. That's farther down the road.
Question in the back to the left here?
Yes.
Absolutely loved the cookie. I'll tell you, you probably already know this, but having tasted it makes me extremely receptive to whatever you tell me next. So just honestly, love the cookie. And I love the idea, but a friend of mine has taught me that many of us have good ideas, but we're way too wimpy when we explain it to others. And as I listened to your presentation, it felt very wimpy. Okay. Your idea and the quality of what you're doing is, in my opinion, much greater than what I saw on the stage, and I would encourage you to think about how you can be stronger and more forceful in moving the market. And I'm curious, if you think into that, you have some traction with customers. How have your customers defined why they want your cookies, your mixes? What have you heard from them that have kind of been a pattern that has come out of this?
One of the patterns is it's a behavior incentive for the kids that come to the markets. So they get a cookie from the cookie man if they're good, or the cookie lady. There are other people that will come on a regular basis and buy, a 6-pack or a baker's dozen because they eat them during the week. So there, when you talked about other markets, there's the ready to deliver. So you get on a shipment basis, once or twice a month. You have these things, you can put them in the freezer, they stay great. But if your kids or I have these for breakfast. I grab one, a cup of coffee, and I'm full for several hours because of the quality of the ingredients. And so we're starting to have more and more people that are willing to do that they're willing to pay a premium. But in the end, $3 for a breakfast, there are far more expensive options out there that are less fulfilling. So did that answer your question? Thank you.
Okay, we've got another one on the far right over here.
Really great cookies.
Thank you.
As far as the presentation style, I actually like the soft sell. I'm in sales too. You said you wanted to hire bakers. Where is your bakery?
My bakery's in Lenexa, and it's really it's a commercial building. I had a customer visit, and he said, "This is not what I expected." It's 1,200 square feet. About 250 of that is an office that we're renovating for people to come in. So that should be done in a couple weeks. I have reached out. There is a women's shelter here in town. I'll leave them unnamed, but I connected with their former executive director, And what he has done and what he has started, because the women will show up there with their families and they are looking for a safe place. And what he has done is he's created a program where he teaches them to cook. That's a culinary program. And we've been bantering around this idea of how can I leverage what you're doing and provide an opportunity for these ladies. And nothing has really materialized, but it just sits and it kind of percolates. You know, as entrepreneurs, there's things that, you know, come back here. But one of the things that we've arrived on, so these mixes, they can be very, it's very easy to make. There's a list, you can break them down into certain things, you can put labels on bags, you can seal bags, and you can actually pay the ladies for the work that they actually do. And so as this business starts to build for this, I'm looking to him and we're trying to figure out a way, a partnership, where we can actually put them to work. The nice thing about using them and where they're at is they actually have babysitting. So one of the big hurdles is if somebody comes to work, a single mom comes to work, well, who's going to watch the kids? But they can provide that service. So that's something that we're reaching out into, and hopefully this season, as these sales start to take off, we can run a pilot and see how well that works.
If I could just follow that up, I live on the Missouri side. I understand that, you know, they have needs on the Kansas side as well. I think that you might find a slightly bigger market of bakers on the Missouri side closer to Troost that could potentially help you if you had a location for baking there.
Yeah.
That's it.
No, thank you. And that women's shelter is it's downtown Kansas, just east of downtown Kansas City.
It's hard to get to Lenexa if you don't have a car.
It is, yeah, I know.
Question in the middle here.
Drive the cookie van, yeah.
Hi, I had one of your cookies before at a restaurant. Ice cream sandwich, very good.
Oh, at
And-
Hayward's?
Yeah. and
Hayward's
the
Barbecue, yeah.
Table
thanks.
tent
Yeah.
promoted it and everything. We picked it over a 5-layer cake, so that was
Nice, thank you.
That was good. I'm afraid though that what you're doing, and one of the things that turned it on, it was a KC product. But if you're going to go outside of KC, I can't see where you're going to be that competitive unless you promote your social agenda as well. And have you looked at promoting that stronger? And, you know, because we heard a lot about the natural, but again, there's a lot of natural out there, and especially selling a dessert as natural is not as big a sell as selling, you know, a more health food product.
Right.
So have you looked at, you know, the social aspect and adding a tagline or something to what you do?
We have, and one of the challenges is as I start this business, I have to feed my family first. And so the tension that I run with this is when we talk about these programs and the things we want to do, I want to do it with honesty and transparency. Because if I start telling about all these single moms that I'm going to be employing and there are none, you know, so I put it as what we want to do in the future. And when we get to that point, we want to use that as an authentic way of marketing our companies. I've seen companies do this, and I'm not really impressed with why they're doing it. They're just catching on to the latest fad, but this is more than a fad for us. This is the reason why we exist.
Okay, we've got another question for you right here.
So I really like the fact that you, as you sort of phrased it, minimally processed ingredients. How do you find the appropriate balance? Because you are talking about shipping, you know, throughout the country. You know, assuming you get to that point, how do you make sure that, say, you're shipping to Houston and it takes 3 or 4 days to get there? How do you make sure that Yummylicious cookies don't become Yuckylicious cookies because of because of the time and shipping?
Yeah, first of all, we won't ship unless it gets there during that week. So we avoid shipping on a Thursday or a Friday if it's going to take 3 days to get there. And typically there's UPS has a pretty good service with their regional boxes, and we can usually get anywhere in the U.S. in 2 days. So even in the summer, we have sent cookies there, and I always ask people how did they turn out, and we have not had any issues yet. So it's really about the logistics behind it and making sure that we pick the right ship time so that they're not sitting in some warehouse at 105 degrees. Good question.
And we've got one quick comment for you.
So I would encourage you to maybe look up the business model that Sama Group out of San Francisco does. They focus on bringing jobs to women in poverty surrounding technology, and now they're working on a natural face cream where they work with women to grow their products, and then they use them in their face cream. But even though this is a different model, I think you could gain some insight from their founder on ways to incorporate that philanthropic component, which is something I'm looking into for my own company here in Kansas City. But I don't know what all the ingredients that you use, but maybe you could tie in something to help them even growing some of it, or there's just a lot of different aspects of that. But I would encourage you to go look up Sama Group in San Francisco and look into some of, and also potentially discuss some partnerships, because their primary focus was international, but now they're bringing that model to the states in really impoverished areas to help. So I think you can gain some insight from them as well.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And I'm always looking for somebody who's paid the dumb tax, because if somebody's already figured out how to do it, I don't want to. I've paid enough dumb tax in the last 2 years that I didn't think I was going to. So appreciate that.
All right, last gigantic question. What can we as a community do to help you?
Yeah, two things really, we only have one answer, so it's 1A and 1B. But thank you for the compliments on the website. It drives me crazy. It's so limited. It's used mostly for informational sharing. I've looked at Shopify as a platform. I know there are a lot out there, but for the basic business functionality that we need, I want to upgrade that. So if you know of anybody who's done that, if you're a business in here who has done that, I'd love to talk to you about some of your experiences, your pluses and the minuses, why you chose it, what you would do differently. And then secondly, just distribution. Even here in Kansas City, it's amazing even at the markets how many people have never heard of us, and we've been there for 5 years. Here in this place, there's a few people I know, but 95% of you probably have never heard of us. And so as you think about the products and as you sample those, we're looking for other distributions. Coffee shops. Right now we have a ready-to-bake product. I have avoided at all cost baking every morning and delivering. But you know what? If the market wants that, I will do that. And then any food service. So we do have a co-packer out in DeSoto who has looked at our recipes, and and I think we can pull this off in terms of this ready-to-bake in terms of a 10 or a 20-pound box. So food services, places that look for high-end or quality ingredients, if you have any introductions or you know of those or you run one of those, please come and talk to me.
All right, thank you so much.
Thanks, Zach.
Great job. I'll come talk to you after.
Yeah, thanks.
All right, that's it. Actually, it's not it. I have one last self-serving announcement. So if you don't know it already, I work at Bloom. And this is National Save for Retirement Week. So we've been running around doing a lot of crazy stuff. And this Friday from 4 to 6, we're kind of putting the cherry on top. So we've got a 401 kegger happening at No Other Pub in Power and Light District. First beers on us and a free Bloom t-shirt for the first 401 people. Hop on the Bloom Facebook page, RSVP, and we'll see you there. 21 and over, I have to say that. But have a great week, and we'll see you next time. Thanks, guys.